If you read the headlines, the international headlines, it seems as if in Pakistan there's a new uncertainty every day. But if the politics of Pakistan are confusing and unpredictable, there's one political leader who's beginning to sound more and more certain about his future and his country's future. And that's Imran Khan. Over the last few interviews that we've done with him in Pakistan, he has repeated again and again that he is set to be the country's future. He has statistics to back that up, and every recent popular poll has actually shown a surge in popularity. Once again, here in Islamabad, we're talking to Imran Khan. It sounds at this moment like almost everything is going your way. But people analyze the reasons for that very differently. Some say it's not so much what you've decided to do, but more that almost everybody else in mainstream politics has failed, that you're riding on a wave of public disaffection here. Is that how you see it?
Well, that's one of the main reasons, that people are sick of the old political parties. They've taken turns over the last 25 years, and they've taken turns to fall to the depths of bad governance. The whole thing hinges on governance. I was reading about Nitish Kumar and Bihar, and the secret of success is that you provide good governance, provide an enabling environment for investment, prosperity. People are happy. Here, we have the worst ever governance in our history, which a side effect of that, of course, is lawlessness, terrorism, and everything. Now, people are tired, 4.5 years of misery, worst ever economic conditions, unemployment, load shedding, there's hardly any electricity, and then they have no ability to cope with this growing radicalization and extremism and terrorism.
It's interesting that you quote the example of the Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, because in India, he's widely seen to be so successful because he's basically focused on a development and governance platform. And he's not really into identity politics, whether of religion or region. It's been an economic and development-oriented platform. Yet your critics and even other commentators who give you credit for creating this very popular movement that's following you, sometimes describe you as a radical and sometimes describe you as a conservative. They don't see you as somebody who's delivering on a development or a governance-oriented platform. What would you say to that?
But you know, when I came into politics, this whole thing about radicalization, being a radical, this is only recent. This is since the war on terror, that I took a stand firmly that we should not have military operations. We cannot win, we cannot beat terrorism through military operations. I always felt that it's winning the people over to your side, it's a hearts and mind war, it's isolating the terrorists, rather than this insanity where we have military operations, collateral damage, and we created the Pakistani Taliban. There were no Taliban in Pakistan before. Today, after 8 years of military operations, we have lost over 40,000 dead. We have the country, just in the last 4 years, it has cost the country $50 billion. And are we winning the war? There is more extremism in Pakistan today than ever in our history. People like us have to think twice before we make a simple statement, because we are scared of the fanatics now, which has been created by this war. But my main platform when I came into politics was governance. I came on an anti-corruption platform. So actually it goes back to Nitish Kumar, because we just unveiled our economic agenda. We had 3 months of deliberation, and actually it is very similar to what Nitish Kumar did in Bihar, because when I read his book, exactly the same steps were taken which we intend to take.
So you see parallels in a sense there, and you do see yourself as forming your politics around an anti-corruption, pro-economic development platform, essentially.
Well, corruption is a symptom of poor governance. Yeah. So basically, if you fix your governance system, actually the difference between developed world and the third world is governance. I mean, Switzerland is a classic example, no resources, nothing, but prosperous. Singapore in front of us, We saw Singapore in the last 40 years go from right down to up there because Lee Kuan Yew gave them good governance. So Nitish Kumar's success, was clean government, transparency. We are the only party in Pakistan where all our central executive members have declared our assets and we put them on our website. And that's what Nitish Kumar did.
It's interesting that you said that today even politicians like yourselves are scared of making a simple statement for fear of how it will be deconstructed, misinterpreted, misused by the fanatics. Then what is the future of Pakistan?
No, it's not a question. I have no fears. It's just that you have to be very careful because the polarization in the society, it has grown at such a pace with this war. Because basically it has been perceived amongst majority as a war against Islam. So once it's war against Islam, there is no a dearth of people willing to die for their religion. And so unfortunately some of those include the least educated people. And their interpretation of Islam is black and white and anything they can misconstrue, which actually could be cultural, but they would actually make it anti-religious. The reason I objected to this war was that I always thought that this would create fanaticism and extremism. And unfortunately, the way we have conducted this war, our ruling elite, first they take money from the Americans to create jihadis, and Mujahideen is a hero when Soviets occupy Afghanistan, and you take money from the US, and then again you take dollars from the US to kill the same Mujahideen. Now they're terrorists because the US is occupying Afghanistan. It's terrorism. But when the Soviets were occupying it, it was jihad, and therefore you were heroes. So this U-turn has created a schism in the society. What we are facing in Pakistan is a desperate situation which needs to be, you need a credible government to deal with it. And the way you deal with it is you've got to get out of this war. We have to say that this is no longer, we are no longer fighting the US war. Make it our war. Disengage from the US. Unless we do that, they will always consider it jihad, and jihad means suicide attacks, and suicide attack those who get killed, and so they think they will go to heavens because they're martyrs. So only when you disassociate yourself, disengage, jihad finishes, then actually you can try and isolate the ideological terrorists.
Now you're planning a big march into Waziristan as an extension of everything that you've just said. But the headlines are already grabbed by the fact that, that you have received a death threat from a Taliban spokesperson. He later seemed to take back a little bit of his statement, but it wasn't clear enough whether that death threat was being withdrawn. Now, isn't this ironic? Because your critics dubbed you Taliban Khan. And here you have the Taliban issuing a death threat. But the liberals are arguing that, see, this is the Taliban you wanted to defend, and now they're turning around and attacking you.
These liberals.
You called them the scum of Pakistan in your last interview to me, by the way.
I said the liberals who back bombings of villages and where innocent women and children get killed, they call it collateral damage. I call them the scum. No liberal can be pro-war. Who are these people in Pakistan who call themselves liberal and sanction, actually support bombing of villages? And the government is using helicopter gunships, F-16s, drone attacks by the Americans, artillery from 10 kilometers away on villages. And guess what happens? Are they trying to tell us when a bomb explodes only a militant gets killed? So the moment there's collateral damage, any member of the family then goes and joins the militants. Hence, we are creating militants. This war is creating militants. So my recipe from day one, for which I was called pro-Taliban, was that to win the war, you win the people of the tribal area to your side.
But the Americans just recently said that they got a major Haqqani group leader because of these drone attacks.
How many
times
have we heard about a major target being killed by drone attacks? What difference has the most major target was Osama bin Laden? What difference has it made? I mean, have they won the war?
So you're saying the killing of Osama bin Laden has made absolutely no difference to the extremism, to the fanaticism, to in fact the men who are ready to take up arms and die for it. It's made no difference.
In fact, the way Osama bin Laden was killed, he's become a martyr to a certain number of people. So he's probably more an inspiration. Look, if I was them, I would have actually done what they did with Saddam Hussein. Put him on trial, just like they did with the Nazis who were responsible for some 50 million deaths. They still put them on in Nuremberg in a trial. This is what civilized societies do. I would have put him on trial, put charges on him, and demystified the whole thing.
You're saying that the US SEALs should not have killed Osama bin Laden?
I do not believe in extrajudicial killing. I believe in the due process of law. My party is called Movement for Justice.
But what if the account suggests that he was armed?
Have you read,
and he was one, yes, I've read
the latest account where they shot him through the window and then he was lying in the... Look...
But he was still the mastermind of God knows how many deaths and how many mass murders and 9/11 and all of that. I mean, do you really want mercy for Osama bin Laden?
No, not mercy, justice for... Why do you have mass murderers? Why do you put them on trial? Why not lynch them? So therefore, I mean, as a civilized society, this is the difference between barbarians and a civilized society. Everyone has it, you must go through the due process of law. You have done this with Qasim.
Yeah.
You know, he went through a law, a due process of law. Well, people have accepted it. But imagine if you had sort of just lynched him. There was so much anger.
He could have as easily been shot in that encounter. I mean, there was gunfire going on.
No, in an encounter, people dying is a different thing.
Yeah.
But imagine if you had caught him and he was a prisoner, and there was so much anger in Mumbai, they would have lynched him. All I'm saying is, India followed the due process of law. It's the way to do it.
The Taliban's threat to you, the irony of that, how do you see it?
It doesn't worry me. Because basically I don't fear death. My only thing is that the people, this huge convoy that is going with me, and there are foreigners coming, there are anti-war activists, there are human rights organizations from Western countries that are coming with me. There's international media I'm taking with me. Because basically we want to tell the Western media this propaganda that drones only kill militants has to be dispelled by actually journalists interviewing people who are effectees of the drone attacks. What needs to be understood by the Western media is that these are counterproductive. In WikiLeaks, the ambassador, the former ambassador of US in Pakistan, Ann Patterson, in WikiLeaks, she was telling the State Department that this is counterproductive. So I don't understand what are they achieving out of this. Because surely if this warfare was a way of winning the war, we should be winning it.
But you say that the threat from the Taliban doesn't worry you. But does it disillusion you? Because you have, before anybody else, advocated that a dialogue is necessary. At that time, you were virtually trashed by sections of your own society for saying that. Today, there's a trilateral process of that dialogue on, at least with the Afghani Taliban. Now, they're threatening you.
Look, first of all, you must remember, there is not one Taliban. There are 17 Taliban groups.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
The motivation of every group is different. When people say, you're pro-Taliban, what do the people mean by that? Because are they talking about an ideology? Because if you talk about the ideological Taliban, in my opinion, it's not even 3 or 4% of the militants. Because if the ideology was that strong, when Taliban were in power in Afghanistan between 96 and 2001, there should have been Talibanization in the tribal areas because it's adjacent. But there was no Taliban here. So it is clearly these people are fighting in reaction. These people are fighting because of collateral damage, because of anti-Americanism, because they've always fought every foreigner. I mean, from Russians to the British to the Mughals. If you understand that, then the way to win this war is winning the people of the tribal areas to your side. The reason why I'm confident that we will be safe is because I have been invited by the tribes. The biggest tribe is Masood in South Waziristan, and then the Wazir tribe. Both tribes have invited me. Now, once they invite you, because I know the tribal areas, you have complete protection. They protect you.
You have been criticized by many here in Pakistan and even internationally for your policy of engagement with all. That is how you have often even explained, for example, members of your party sharing a platform with the Defy Pakistan, which includes the Lashkar-e-Taiba, which includes groups that Hafiz Saeed belongs to. In many interviews, that, including mine with you, you have said, well, I'm engaging, I'm not endorsing. Isn't that a very thin line?
Look, under normal circumstances, if Pakistan was, a country and under normal conditions, yes, I think I would. There are certain people who would have such an extreme ideology of hatred that I would not engage with them.
Yeah.
Today, Pakistan is a fractured society. It is being divided as we speak. The killing of Shias in Pakistan, the slaughter, the genocide, I would say. I mean, I, as a Pakistani, feel ashamed, embarrassed, and pained by it, because I've just been in Gilgit-Baltistan, where some 40 people surrounded these buses, took out Shia members, read their ID cards, and shot them in the forehead.
But would you engage with the people who did this to the Shias? That would be my question.
No. The point I'm trying to say is that the country has reached a level which never existed before. And this is not just Shia Sunni. This is now other sects are being attacked by them. Other sects, but then it's also Urdu speaking. In Karachi, Pashtun fighting Urdu speaking, fighting Sindhi speaking. So in Balochistan, there's a Balochistan Liberation Army which is killing people, which is a terrorist organization. Now, if I wanted to stabilize Pakistan, I have to have a period where should be some truth and reconciliation. I must try and get everyone together, on some sort of a common agenda. And you have to try that. Then, of course, if you find that there are certain people who still remain outside, you can then isolate them.
But why should these people not be punished as part of the truth and reconciliation? For example, those who indulge in genocide of Shias or other sects, why should they not be punished in the severest terms? Or, for example, as an Indian, many would say to you, why should Hafiz Saeed not be behind bars? Surely, justice has to come before truth and reconciliation.
Truth and reconciliation means overall, all the sort of divisive groups moving away, different organizations, all of them must be you must bring them under one umbrella. What you're actually talking about is completely different. People who commit crime, who've killed people, who've murdered people, they must be brought to justice. They're two different things. I'm talking about organizations. Anyone who has been involved, I'm talking about particular people who've been involved. Truth and reconciliation doesn't mean that you forgive murderers.
But what happens to them? I mean, you know that Indians, you spoke about due process to Ajmal Kasab. He wasn't lynched. His case has been decided by the highest court of India. Now Indians are wondering, but why is Hafiz Saeed roaming around free? The Lashkar-e-Taiba is associated with the Defy Pakistan. Your party members have shared a stage with them. I mean, you have been loved in India. You know India well. You have so many Indian friends. Mumbai is a city you know so well. Don't you feel a paradox?
So, are you trying to say that just because our member attended the DPC, where you had only talking about 2 or 3 organizations, there were a lot of other organizations who are not, considered sort of militants or terrorists. So it was a broad-based organization, and to put it in context, our rep attended only 2 meetings. We are not part of the DPC. The DPC is an organization of a lot of various factions. We are not part of them. They only attended 2. And after that, because there was a group associated also sectarian, we did not attend any of the DPC after that. So, I mean, just to put it in context. But as far as I'm concerned, you're talking about someone involved against India. You keep naming Hafiz Saeed. Look, the thing with Hafiz Saeed is that as long as the Pakistani courts do not convict him, and remember, people in this country trust the Supreme Court. Now, unless he gets convicted in the court of law, you've got to give him the benefit of doubt. Because how can I say just because he's been accused by India, Does it mean that I should immediately then say that he should be jailed or he should be sentenced? Should I not say that he should be, as I said, the due process of law? But does that make me anti-Indian? I mean, I have known India better than probably any other Pakistani, and I've probably been loved by more Indians than any, than probably any Pakistanis. And also, I understand.
That's why I'm repeatedly asking you the question.
And I understand India better than other Pakistanis. Let me tell the Indians that, look, it's in their interest that anyone, you're talking about Hafiz Saeed or anyone, do not let them become martyrs. The worst thing you can do is that not follow the due process of law, someone becomes a martyr, and then other people then follow and want to become martyrs too.
So are you saying when Hillary Clinton, for example, announces a bounty for information that would lead to the arrest of Hafiz Saeed, that makes him a hero here?
But Hillary Clinton, when she says Hafiz Saeed announces a bounty, she's actually ruining the cause. I mean, she's making it difficult for Pakistan government to take action on Hafiz Saeed because they will think that it's on behest of the Americans. And remember, the latest Pew poll, 74% of Pakistanis now, from last year, which was 66%, 74% now think that America is an enemy. So you have people who would just immediately look at things in black and white. America is an enemy, so Hafiz Saeed is a hero.
But you spoke about the judiciary, but the world also sees headlines coming out of Pakistan where a little child said to have Down syndrome is put behind bars for blasphemy. And now, of course, subsequently, many of those charges are found to they were fabricated. The person who did this has also been arrested. But that does not change the fact that in Pakistan, as you have said, sometimes it's almost impossible to just stand up and speak just commonsensical truth. You have said to me that 7 years ago, what happened to what Salman Taseer said would not have even been a headline. And today it's completely different. No one can have a sane conversation about blasphemy. Little children are going to jail for blasphemy. So when we see this happening, when we as Indians, for example, see this happening, can we invest faith in due process here?
No, but, there are two different things. One is this issue of this 11-year-old girl. I feel embarrassed. It hurts me as a Pakistani to see this thing, mockery of law. This is a total mockery of any law. I mean, no law in the world would do this to an 11-year-old girl. And then add to it, even if she did not have Down syndrome, you would not do that. So it is a total abuse of law. And I'm glad that there's actually been a reaction, and now the cleric who actually did, he's in trouble himself.
Yeah.
But look, what has happened in Pakistan is the collapse of the rule of law. When the rule of law collapses, then I'm afraid all laws are abused. I mean, just imagine the state of rule of law when Asif Zardari can become the president of Pakistan, the biggest criminal. So what do you expect? I mean, when law means everyone is equal before law. This whole drama going on in the Supreme Court today is Asif Zardari's $60 million need to be protected in Switzerland, and so he's trying to destroy the Supreme Court to protect his money. So rule of law means everyone is equal. The reason why it works in the West is no prime minister can abuse law. But here they think it's a privilege to abuse law. That means that people who are strong are above law, and masses have no access to justice.
You said to me the last time I was here that you believe that the age of the military coup is now permanently over. You didn't see that ever happening again. But most people continue to believe that the military in Pakistan continues to exercise a disproportionate amount of influence on elected governments. You have been quoted as saying that that would change if you were to lead this country. How would it change?
Let me give a cricketing example. There are two captains. Both have in the constitution the same amount of powers. Yet one captain is completely powerful, and he sort of, he doesn't allow any interference in the team. He's all powerful. And yet there's another captain, who no one listens to. The selectors impose their own team. The chairman interferes. The team, can't even stand up to the team. So similarly with two prime ministers. There's one prime minister we have we have this new guy now, Pervez Ashraf. No one listens to him. You have another Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was a prime minister. He was all powerful. So both, constitution gave both the same amount of powers. So difference is the moral authority. Physical authority is the weakest. If a prime minister comes with the moral authority where he's performing, we have the classic case of Erdogan in Turkey. Well, look at him now. Turkey's military was much more powerful than Pakistan. They actually hung a prime minister. There several coups. I mean, who would have thought that the top generals are being tried for court-martialed for interfering in politics now? And just because there's a prime minister who's performed, people are behind him. He has the moral authority.
So you're saying the moral authority drives and diminishes the influence of the military in Pakistan? That if there were a leader...
No, Burka, simply, the moment you lose moral authority, the army has the physical authority. You can't compete with them in physical authority.
Your critics here in Pakistan repeatedly say that in some ways you're the army's candidate. And I know what you're going to say, so we're going to go beyond that. You're going to say that when General Musharraf was here, he couldn't command the kind of crowds that you can. So why...
30,000. He got 30,000 by the whole resources and managed to get 30,000 people in Islamabad.
So why do they call you the army's candidate?
Because they are petrified of this tsunami. They're petrified. They have no answers to it. They've tried everything. They can't understand this revolution. And so because Nawaz Sharif particularly, he was manufactured by the army. General Jalani picked this businessman up and actually made him. I mean, never has an army manufactured a politician as Nawaz Sharif was. General Zia then, of course, picked him up and made him, not because of his abilities, because he was pliable. And then ISI gave him funds, which the case is now lying in the Supreme Court. They actually in 1990 gave him funds, to contest elections. He was given money by the ISI. So because he thinks, since he was made by the army, he cannot understand this tsunami. So he thinks that the army is backing me too. But let me just say one thing. I mean, army right now, across the board, everyone is backing PTI. I mean, we have crossed 10 million members. 10 million. It's unheard of. The only other party we conducted a membership campaign is PMLN. They've got 100,000. This, after a party which has been going on for God knows how many years, they've just managed 100,000. So 10 million members. So this is a unique movement in Pakistan. And my prediction is it's not even reached 40% of its potential. Closer to the elections, of course, I hope you'll be covering it.
Absolutely.
You will see the full force of this. It will sweep, it will destroy all the old powerhouses, the status quo.
What do you think should be the army's place in Pakistan's politics?
Like army anywhere, like in India.
And can that happen, given how entrenched the influence has been? I
think Pakistan has, I keep telling you,
Pakistan
has changed completely. Given the performance, this is the worst performance in the last 4 years of any government in our history. Had it been the good old days, we would have had a general sitting there and saying, I've come to save the country. It didn't happen this time. And believe me, if the army interfered, there'd be celebrations in the street.
Well, it's been described as a judicial coup instead of a military one.
This has been orchestrated by those people sitting in power who do not want an independent justice system. What is the fault of Chaudhry Iftikhar? What is his fault? He has had the gall to challenge the powerful who have been never challenged before. Basically in Pakistan...
But now he's been dragged into a controversy with his son, and in cynical environments, everybody would say, well, we don't know who to believe, what to trust anymore.
Well, the government is trying to implicate, or the whole Zardari camp is trying to make out that Chaudhry Iftikhar, his son, is involved in some sort of a corruption. But I'm surprising that this government should suddenly start worrying about corruption, because corruption has broken all records. So clearly it's not because of them wanting to curtail corruption, It's because they wanted to blackmail the Chief Justice.
And you believe that in a few months from now, when elections are held, this government will be history?
If you believe in democracy, then therefore you must surely look at the opinion polls. Never has anyone been so hated in this country as Asif Zardari. I mean, you look at his rating in the opinion polls, never has someone fallen that low. Now, if it's democracy, how is he going to win the elections? Unless they are rigged.
You sound so confident that your former wife and partner, Imran Khan, said that it was like the time when Pakistan won the World Cup, and you kept saying we're going to win and nobody would believe you. And the odds at that time were obviously not as stacked in your favor as they are today, at least in your own estimation. Is it sort of like that? Is that something you'd compare this moment to?
You know, when I first said that we will sweep the elections, that's when the odds were the same as the World Cup. Not now. Now it's the semi-final stage where everyone thought we had an even chance. But then, because you see, I am the only politician who was amongst the public. And I saw this mood change about 3 years back. I saw the young people suddenly become politicized. And so and then there were few rallies I did in the smaller areas, towns, and I went to various universities and colleges, and I knew the time had come. And so since then, things have just, snowballed. But the moment the caretaker setup comes in, that's when you will see the full force of Tehreek-e-Insaf.
Talk a little bit about your personal journey to this point. The last few times I've met you, you seem completely consumed, as if this is, in a sense, your mission in life. Yet I read somewhere that a fortune teller once told you that if you join politics, you could actually be assassinated. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that in the Pakistan that we know today, people are actually paying with their lives. Does that cross your mind? Because you have 2 little children. They don't live here. But, you're also a parent. There are also other attachments in your life. You live in a volatile country. You're outspoken.
When that fortune teller told me something about 30 years back.
Did you believe him?
25 years back.
Did you believe him? Did you take him seriously?
But then I wasn't even thinking of coming into politics. And of course, then I didn't have faith. So when you, in Islam, in our holy book, it is very clear that the time of your death is in God's hands. So when He decides, neither can you bring it 1 minute forward or 1 minute later. It's in His hands. So there, once you have complete faith, your fear of death disappears. So therefore, I don't really worry about dying. The only thing I worry about is my 2 children. But apart from that, I have no fear at all.
What do they think about your being in politics?
Well, naturally,
do they ask you questions? Do they tell you don't do this? Do they say, we'd rather you do something else?
The younger one is a bit, he's too young. But the older one, of course he worries. But so that's but then if you have no control over dying, then why worry about it? Because remember, I have faith. But secondly, I saw this right in front, this thing, right in front of my eyes when I sat at the cancer hospital. When we opened the cancer hospital, my office was there and I was there for 5 years. And in these 5 years, I used to see 2 of them, my own friends, healthy people arrive and 6 months later they were gone. And so, we don't realize the fragility of life and death. We somehow think we will always live forever. There are millions of ways of dying. So if you have to die, you might as well die for a cause.
Do you believe that politics has changed you? And I ask you that because, interestingly, Michelle Obama, in a completely different context, said politics doesn't change a man, it only reveals to the public who he is. But in your case, if one were to map your life, I've read your memoirs and, followed your life quite closely, as have so many other people, there could be identified watershed moments. You could have been one thing earlier, become another thing. You went from being a student at Oxford who idolized Karl Marx and Mick Jagger together, which is an odd combination, to now being this politician who's often described as a conservative. In England, you'd probably be a Tory.
Actually, I'm not a conservative. I'm a liberal. I've always, by the way, that's one thing the Taliban said, that he's a liberal. So
they did say that, but isn't that funny? Because you've attacked liberals have attacked you, and the Taliban is now calling you a liberal.
But I'm a genuine liberal. I believe in life. I'm anti-war. I believe in freedom of expression. I believe in freedom of religion. I believe in the dignity of human beings, you know. So, and I do not believe that, I believe in freedom. I do not believe in those people who curtail other people's freedom. You know, that's what I call myself a liberal. And by the way, this is what my great idol, my role model, ideological role model, Iqbal was. I mean, if you read Iqbal, you know, he was the ultimate liberal. And yet, you know where you have to be conservative. I mean, there are certain things that have permanence. There are certain eternal principles you have to follow. Problem with what happened in the 1960s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll revolution was that they actually, there are certain things you do not, you know, no matter what happens, but there are eternal principles which you follow. So anyway, that's a long debate. But I always think of myself as a liberal. When you say that, you know, you said something very interesting about politics. Look, the only thing that changes you is a belief system, faith. That changes you, because basically your belief system tells you that this is what you're doing on this earth, and this what will happen to you when you die. So it's the only thing that actually changes you, because you're accountable to God. So you think you can get away with things because no one is watching, but when you become accountable to God, you change.
But when did that moment happen for you?
25 years back.
Yeah.
But now I come to, you know, where she says that politics reveal yourself. I disagree with that. I think actually what happens is that, you know, a human being evolves with challenges. So your objectives change you. To achieve a certain objective, you have to change yourself. I could never even ask my father for money. I was, as a child, I used to feel somehow loss of respect even asking my father for money. And yet when I started the cancer hospital, I had to go to streets in Pakistan
and ask for donations. Yeah.
So it was the objective that changed me. And similarly, when you go into politics, you know, the idea of asking for votes, you know, for someone like me, you know, it was so bizarre, you know, asking people for votes. But actually, when you know, for a certain objective, you actually do change yourself.
So how different is today's Imran from the Imran 30 years ago? What's the biggest difference?
Very tolerant, very patient.
You were short-tempered earlier?
I wasn't very patient. I used to be short-tempered. I mean, short-tempered, no, I was shy. So if I felt someone was rude to me, I would react, you know, I would react aggressively. I learned to control that, and actually became very tolerant. Very rarely can people get me angry.
What would drive you to anger today?
I do find rudeness. I find when someone is abusive or rude, I find that always difficult to handle. I find wrong allegations. I mean, my opponents have made a lot of allegations against
including of corruption, including of the cancer hospital. You've sent a defamation notice.
Which is why I'm taking someone to court. Actually, it's PMLN, you know, they always attack me. They attack me on two fronts. My personal life, you know, and then secondly, they attack the cancer hospital. And this time, I decided to take them to court. You know, we had a lot of evidence against corruption of both Asif Zardari and Nawaz Sharif. And rather than answer those allegations, they attacked me, but then I've never been in government. So the only thing they could say I could have made money was from the cancer hospital. And that's why I took him to court.
Last words for Sachin Tendulkar?
Well, what do I say about Sachin? Such a great player. But I can only say, if I was in his position, I would want to leave on a high. And my greatest worry was that I should never be at the mercy of the selectors.
When you look back at your life, and I know you've written about this, and you've written about, you know, years of hedonism and pleasure seeking, and that changed for you, and you're now a different person. But when you look back at that life, do you regret it, or do you see that as a rites of passage?
I have no regrets in life.
None.
Because
none. No mistakes made, no regrets, no
mistakes.
But no
so
regrets.
Many mistakes. But you know, we are human beings. We make mistakes. But you know, I had this during my cricketing days. I used to have this quality that at the end of the day's play, I would never sleep until I had analyzed my whole day's play, what I could have done differently. So before going to sleep, I always used to do this exercise, which remained with me throughout. So I always used to analyze my mistakes. So mistakes, I mean, is there anyone who doesn't make mistakes? But actually, it's the ability to analyze your mistakes, you move forward. That's how you move forward in life. Regrets, no.
None.
No regrets.
You sleep well at night.
Despite all outer turbulence, there's inner peace. I sleep very well.
Now, you're so sure that you are going to be the future of Pakistan. So I have to ask you, what would that mean for India? What would Imran Khan's India policy be?
You see, what has to be done is that people of India and Pakistan need to understand the dividends of peace. So I need to sell this, and I will sell it to my own people. Time has come for us to move forward. It doesn't mean that we don't have our differences. Kashmir will always be the core issue. But there are ways of dealing with core issues. You don't have to have military means or militancy. You can deal with this in a civilized way. But we must understand that the greatest number of poor people live in the subcontinent. And our biggest duty must be to the suffering of poor people and to the people of subcontinent. And also on the positive side, this is probably the greatest opportunity for us to move ahead. Provided this tension goes, this hostility goes, the benefits of peace are so enormous that the whole subcontinent will take off. And here we are sitting, Pakistan sitting, China one side, India the other. India needs Pakistan. All the energy corridor is through Pakistan. India needs energy, to become an economic giant. Pakistan, India, markets. I mean, there is so much, the benefits of peace.
And you've said in the past that Kashmir, despite denials, did come pretty close to being, tantalizingly close to being, well, resolved, not solved, but resolved.
Well, there are 3 ex-foreign ministers in my party. Yeah. All 3 were involved in Kashmir negotiations. And I was amazed that behind the doors, the back channels, the sort of progress that was made on Kashmir, I was amazed, because we weren't told about this, how close we came. So, at one point I thought it could never be resolved. After listening, taking a private briefing, because obviously some of the things you cannot, people need to be prepared before you go to them, before you put these plans in front of them. But actually, it is solvable. It is not impossible.
And we've come close to it. And you have this from almost the horse's mouth.
And we came very close to it. And so therefore, but you do need 2 strong leadership. You said the whole thing about a leadership as opposed to a manager is that a leader shows people a vision. We have got to show people of the subcontinent a vision of what can happen if we have peace. And believe me, it is limitless. And
we're playing cricket again.
Well,
is that good or bad? One has to ask.
No, it's a good thing. I think.
Do you think the sting?
I heard Sunny was a bit apprehensive.
He was circumspect.
Because I think it was Mumbai. I don't know why people should think that anyone in Pakistan would have endorsed Mumbai. Believe me, everyone I spoke to was horrified by it. All human beings feel the same. How can you see innocent people being killed and not be horrified? So therefore, to blame a whole country for Mumbai is wrong, unless people, we claimed it. For instance, when the Taliban or some militant, they kill someone, they take credit for it. Pakistan, everyone condemned it. So therefore, I can understand, and by the way, I saw the anger in India. That's understandable. But in the end, you can't hold people responsible who had nothing to do with it and did not endorse it.
So you don't want the cricket linked to Mumbai?
No,
which is what Sunil Gavaskar spoke about.
I think cricket links must be restored. There was a point when we came, where there was a peak in our relationship, was actually when...
No, I'm saying, so don't link the playing to what's happening with the Mumbai trial.
We should not link them. We should not. In fact, everything should be de-linked from Mumbai, and we should understand that it was a tragedy which people of Pakistan did not endorse. We condemned it as much as, and felt the pain of people.
Yeah. And as we end, last words for Sachin Tendulkar?
Well, what do I say about Sachin? Such a great player. But I can only say, if I was in his position, I would want to leave on a high. And my greatest worry was that I should never be at the mercy of the selectors.
Do you actually think someone like Sachin could be at the mercy of the selectors?
No, but why put yourself in that position? I mean, Sachin has, what a brilliant record he has. I mean, would he want to, would he not want, I mean, okay, again I put myself in the position. My greatest worry was that I would not be able to perform to my abilities, and so people will remember me not at my peak, but when I was leaving cricket.
But you had General Zia on live TV asking you to come out of retirement. But
the reason I retired was because I did not want to be at the mercy of the selectors. I wanted to go out at my peak. And so, and then the only reason I kept playing was then actually for the cancer hospital. I was building this hospital, and I knew if in fact the Board of Governors told me, if you go out of cricket, you won't be able to collect the money. So that's the only reason I kept playing. But my fear always was that I do not want to, you know, having seen those heights, I just did not want to be at the mercy of selectors or people saying, it's about time he leaves, you know. I didn't want to, people. And that's why I respect Sunil Gavaskar. He left. I mean, he could have gone on. Sunil had one of the best defensive techniques I've ever seen in a batsman. So given that technique, he could have gone on. But he left, you know, at the peak when people said...
So you're saying it's time for Sachin to go? In other words, in a polite way, that's what you're saying.
I think, you know, Sachin is such a great player and people are emotionally attached. I can understand the Indian public who've been watching him for 23 years. They can't imagine life without Sachin. But from Sachin's point of view, you know, knowing the sort of pride he takes in his cricket, you know, there must be a time when he should decide that, look, this is, you know, the right time to leave.
What's tougher, cricket or politics? What's tougher for you, cricket or politics? What, if you look back at your life, what's been a tougher ride?
I felt that it was a stepping stone. I mean, if I hadn't gone through that cricket struggle, I would not have been able to build the hospital because it took much. Hospital was much tougher than cricket. And then politics was much tougher than the hospital. So basically every struggle, every milestone prepares you for a bigger struggle.
Well, you're at the cusp of another big shift, a tectonic shift in your life, in your country's life. Thank you so much, Imran Khan.